All right, Matt, thanks for joining us. Matt Schumacher. I've known him for 22/23 years. I just got the math wrong in my head. Welcome to the Coded for Chaos podcast, Matt.
Thanks for having me, Hank.
Absolutely.
Great to be here.
We finally have a name. We've been, I guess, with the third episode with a name. We were kind of making fun of that. We were gonna go with the no name podcast for a while, and then sort of like the Washington football team. We were just gonna be like the podcast, or as the producer of the podcast, Evan likes to call me Hank the VC. We thought about that, but I try not to be a VC, so that's kind of like the point of having a podcast, is to not be a VC and to talk about real issues, not VC like issues.
It's good to be original.
Yes, yes. So Coded for Chaos. Matt and I go way back to like real chaos in the Army. We served together in the Army. Matt was out in the tactical Army and then came to Fort Meade, and that's where we met. I was out in the tactical Army, then came to Fort Meade. So tell us a little bit about your origin story in security, Matt.
Yeah. As you said, we did create a little chaos, I think, in the Army.
Yes.
I started in national security and cyber when I started working at Fort Meade. You and I were we were young captains, I think, when September 11th happened, and that for you, me, and all of our peers, that changed everything in our world, and so at that time I was working kind of traditional SIGINT, signals intelligence operations, and again, I was fortunate to be at the right place at the right time, and started getting into some new technologies as we got into the global war on terrorism, and the adversaries were moving to mobile communications and internet cafes, and they were communicating in ways that our traditional adversaries weren't, and so part of that required us to think about how do we kind of operate in cyberspace.
Yeah, that was the big transition from Cold War era signals intelligence, national level intelligence, to post 9/11. Everyone's communicating in new ways. The internet's taken over the world, intelligence gathering. And 9/11 was really a forcing function for NSA in particular, but also CIA with Human and everything, to kind of change the way of doing business. And I think you and I were both there on the ground floor when that was happening, and in Army units that were cutting edge at figuring out how to do that. So how did that translate to the rest of your career? Like, you left the military, I think, in 2004-ish, something like that. 2000.
Left active duty in 2005. Transitioned into the reserves, and I had an opportunity to join a team at Booz Allen that was doing cyber work. Not at a large scale, very small scale, but doing cyber work with the National Security Agency, and so decided to transition into sort of the industry side of the business, which was something that I had always thought I would do at some point. For me, one of the things I really embraced was the technologies that we used when we were in the military, and I'd always felt that I could help develop some of these newer technologies that are needed to support national security missions, military missions, and just really make sure that our service members and the intelligence community members have the best technology in their hands to give them the advantage in their mission. So yeah, I transitioned to Booz Allen. I thought that might just sort of be a couple years, and then kind of see what would be next. But that turned into an 18-year career with Booz Allen, really kind of focused on growing their cyber business from a very, very sort of small set of clients at the time to a multi-billion-dollar business.
Yeah, it was easy to do that once I built it out for you, and then
And I do appreciate all the help that you provided me. That never hurts.
yeah, no,
Thank
just
you.
kidding. No, we were joking earlier about me sort of following you in your career and your career path along the way. Because were you year group 96 in the Army or 97? You were 97?
1998.
98. Okay, all right. Okay, so I was 97. So I was actually year group before you. But were you a branch detail guy? Or were you?
I wasn't. I was always
You were always MI. Yeah,
MI branch.
yeah. All right. So MI and intel from the core, but tactical, transitioning to more strategic at the fort, and then really like in a strategic um, from a defense contractor perspective. Following that, I don't know about how you felt, but like at Booz Allen, I after having kind of been doing very niche stuff in the military, I suddenly found myself doing 10 things at once instead of just like one or two things. So like while the military was a complex place to work, like in a lot of ways, Booz Allen was even more complex to a certain extent back then because they were being relied on so heavily to build out cyber and as I like to say, like I think we had at Booz Allen, we had like the largest cyber army in the world for a while, as far as like people that were like focused on the cyber mission. I mean, that's a lot's changed in the last 20 years or whatever, but we those people are now everywhere throughout industry. And
They are.
you left Booz Allen after 18 years and went to Leidos. So what's your role at Leidos now? What's that all about?
Yeah. So some of it is similar to what I was doing the last couple years at Booz Allen. My role is vice president of cyber for their national security sector business.
Yeah.
Which is a multi-billion-dollar a year business, focused on supporting all the intelligence community, as well as cyber command and all of the service cyber components. So the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, and it it's a broad-based business that provides kind of leading technologies and systems, all the way from kind of specialized mission software systems to hardware capabilities, and then all the sort of enabling technologies around analytics and automation and artificial intelligence and all the good things that kind of make all that work. So yeah, my role is very much kind of focused on our business strategy, making sure that we're focused on the right customers, the right mission sets, making sure that our strategy within our business aligns to the bigger Leidos growth strategy, and then along with that, looking at where should we be investing our corporate research and development dollars. What kind of technologies should we be investing in? What kind of training should we be providing our technical professionals? And then also really kind of doing things like this with you and Strategic Cyber Ventures and others, building a community of interest that enables our business to work with some of the newest and leading edge technology companies that are out there, and kind of help to facilitate our customers getting access to companies that you invest in.
Do you think that's changing, where it's going to be easier for early stage tech companies like ours, like others? There's thousands in the cyber world, and even more in defense tech now with all the different categories of defense tech. Is it just talk, or is it actually getting easier for the government to buy early stage stuff in today's world?
Yeah, that's a putting me on the spot question.
And how would you fix it?
Now I fix it.
Yeah.
Because it depends who you ask, and it depends on the perspective of the person. I think working when you have new companies or companies that are moving from the commercial side of the industry into the federal market, working with large technology integrators such as Leidos
Yeah.
is a really good way to enter the market.
Yeah, I think so.
We provide a lot of support for those companies, and a lot of times, we're kind of agnostic to the size of the business, as long as you've got kind of product market fit. You most likely will have traction on the commercial side, so the technologies and the businesses have some level of maturity that they can then be sold into the federal market side.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the contractor big primes like Leidos and others like provide the kind of framework and the common sense that would allow a smaller company to maneuver its way into the right place, integrate. That maybe like a straight up procurement office at like at a military branch or whatever couldn't figure out how to do on their own. But there's so many new programs now for start that that we're being presented from the venture side and the startup world where it's like, okay, maybe consider this avenue, maybe consider this avenue. You could get bogged down as a startup trying to consider all these different avenues how to break into government if you don't have like a Sherpa to help you through the system. So it's good to hear that you guys are involved in that at Leidos. Do you still are you still involved in like would you describe your role as more like corp dev or like how would you describe it?
Uh, yeah, I would describe it as really kind of focused on business growth.
Yeah.
So under that as kind of a large umbrella, you're going to get components of strategy
Yeah.
and go to market planning and customer engagement and working with a range of technology companies, working with a range of small businesses and other teammates. You're also going to get with that working so at Leidos we do have a corporate development team that does focus on the mergers and acquisitions
Yeah.
side of our business. So in our case, our strategy does include opportunistic M&A, and so I do work with our corporate development team to identify companies that could be of potential interest that we may want to acquire.
Yeah. So tell me about the mystery that is the capture process for winning government proposals, business development. I mean, I was involved in this for a long time. I've been involved in it in quite some time since I left Booz Allen 9 years ago. For a lot of the startup world, when I explain to them how it all works, they're just blown away by the timelines associated with it. You're a young cybersecurity startup, you're like, you're telling me this contract may not be awarded for 2 years and it could be protested and all this other stuff. So tell us about how that works. You have a lot of experience with that, and maybe like what's changing in the current environment under the new administration or the current administration running Washington.
Yeah, and Hank, I know you know that capture process very well, and it does change. It's somewhat dependent on the portfolio of business that you have and that you're pursuing. You think about large opportunities, $500 million, $1 billion, $2 billion. These are certainly sort of the size of some of the contracts that we pursue in our business at Leidos. And as you can imagine, they require sort of a very strategic perspective. They're complex. We will often start working on bids of that size 2 years, 3 years, 4 years out, depending on what it is. And there are a number of people that will be involved. You may be spending several millions of dollars just on the pursuit part of it. You may be building prototypes. You may be acquiring companies to prepare for just even one bid that might be a couple $1 billion. So There are quite a few different components around the capture process. You know, again, starting early is really the key because that procurement will likely change along the way. Um, and those changes can be driven by the agency, the customer that you're focused on, or it could be it could be driven by the administration
Yeah.
at the time, which is what we're seeing now. So to answer kind of the second part of your question there, this administration is all about, I'll just say generally is all about speed and acceleration and leveraging proven capabilities, mature technologies, and proven approaches. They are very technology accessible. They're very kind of technology forward, and in our business at Leidos, that's what we do. We build technology capabilities and solutions. So for us, this has been a very positive environment. And we talked a little bit about for younger companies, newer companies who are interested that in entering the federal market, working and getting to know large system integrators, large primes is a great way to enter the market and start to kind of maybe stack up.
Yeah.
Yes, the timelines for procurement may be longer; they may be a couple years, but getting involved in a procurement a couple years out, is a great thing, and allows you to sort of almost have a separate pipeline of opportunities outside your commercial business.
Yeah. And to add to the complexity, I guess sometimes these things are even classified. So then you have to do it in like a classified environment and submit things in it. So for people that don't realize that exists too, they're not all the time, but it happens some of the time, and it can make things a lot more difficult and makes, definitely no remote work when you're doing that. So Matt, let's talk a little bit about the difference of going after government work versus commercial work. I mean, especially in this age, this sort of renaissance of defense tech, people are considering getting into the defense tech world that maybe have never thought about it before. There's a little bit of a romanticism about it. Like, what are the main differences between from your perspective, going after defense work, government work versus commercial work? We touched on that earlier, but like, what's the 50,000 foot vibe on that?
Yeah. And we did talk about timelines. Yeah, I would say, if you're talking general enterprise IT stack, there aren't a lot of differences, right? So the federal government, they buy and procure just like any organization or company would. They buy their enterprise IT systems, and which are both hardware and software. So not too much is different there. I would say the main difference, and where you'll see a company like Leidos working and bringing technologies and capabilities is really more on the what I would kind of call specialized, unique mission sets that the federal government, the national security customers, the intelligence community, those specialized mission sets are very different, right? So in that arena, you're talking satellites, you're talking different ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance platforms. You're talking about specialized software systems, specialized hardware systems that perform, very unique functions and have unique capabilities. And the uniqueness there is also seen based on where the technology may operate and may physically be located. So you may have kind of similar systems. One system may be designed for the tactical edge and used on the battlefield. Potentially in environments where there is zero communications and ability to connect to a parent system. But that soldier still needs to have their special systems to perform their mission, all the way to a similar system that might be more for a strategic level purpose. So, you do find the requirements are unique for specialized
Yeah.
capabilities.
Things like in the commercial world, you wouldn't think about like, oh, if the whole internet goes down and everything's being jammed, like that's not typically something a buyer in the commercial space is like worried about too often. Right? They're like somehow in like the critical infrastructure world and building something on for commercial application that also needs to be compliant from a doomsday type perspective. But so okay, that's a really good point. Like autonomous systems require a parent system to kind of check in with every once in a while. If that big system, that parent system goes down, how do we maintain our battlefield edge in a communications denied environment? Which is something. So why, for people that don't understand, like why does the government need someone like a Leidos to build that for them? Why can't the government build that for themselves? Like back in the day, there was like GOTS versus COTS, and there was a lot more government off the shelf stuff than commercial off the shelf stuff. That was basically pre-internet, for the most part. Why is there a defense apparatus to think about and build these things as opposed to just building more government agencies to build these things?
Yeah, well, I mean, Hank, we could have a whole conversation around capitalism and the notion of the notion of capitalism, and why the government, doesn't inherently do the building part. Now, the government do engineering, they do build some of their systems, but as historically, you can go back to the 1800s, right? Our military, our government has always worked with,
right,
with commercial partners.
So this isn't a new thing. This isn't something that's new.
Not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
It was a lot less complicated back then. The Pony Express needed a bag. They went to commercial industry. They built the bag for them. Now we're in a world where it's a totally different environment. That question comes up a lot, even in the world of startup. Like why don't big banks build their own security stuff on the commercial side? And it's because that's not their core competency. They're a bank, they're not right. Sitting around building security widgets. They want to focus on banking and servicing, and security is kind of something you wrap around all of that. Okay, so what's fundamentally probably the biggest misconception that smaller companies have about doing business with the government that we haven't already touched on? So it's the timeline, we touched on that, but are there any other like misconceptions that smaller companies have about doing business with the government?
Well, I would just offer, and I wouldn't limit this to small companies. Having an understanding that customers know exactly what they need, is sort of an assumption that is often made, and not incorrectly, but a lot of times our government customers may not exactly know what they need. They sort of know, hey, I need this outcome, but I don't know how to get there. I don't, I have this problem, I don't know exactly how to solve it. I think which opens the door for collaboration, with our government customers. And I think, that's a really kind of key thing for industry to understand is, our federal government partners like to collaborate with industry. They like to figure out how to solve problems. They like getting on the whiteboard and diagramming what a solution might look like. So, that's something I think, whether you're small or large, is a great opportunity, and always sort of, should be something that you kind of look to engage with the government on.
Right. That's where the consulting part of it comes in. They're not going to come to you with we want it to look exactly like this. Maybe occasionally that'll happen, but that's typically not my experience. So
right.
Yeah, focusing on outcomes and finding people that are creative enough to help them fill in the middle of how to get to that outcome.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about the procurement cycle and speed in procurements. The one thing I'll mention that our government, just from a trend perspective, our government customers have been doing is they've been prototyping. So they've really embraced experimentation. They're willing to look at prototypes that may not be, a high technology readiness level, but it potentially could be at some point. So there's certainly a desire to prototype. They also have created some acquisition frameworks that are a little bit more on the rapid side. So things like other transaction authorities that are have become a lot more popular, and they actually have requirements for non-traditional defense contractors or non-traditional federal contractors. So those types of procurement methods, and you have customers that are willing to prototype, that all really sort of can come together, great for small companies.
Yeah. We are going to dive into the M&A part of things, which is particularly interesting for the VCs in the room and the startups in their ecosystem, because getting liquid as an early stage company is more challenging than ever right now. Lots of markups on paper, lots of smaller roll-ups taking place, but the IPO market's still kind of but the defense tech market is hot, and you guys are at the nucleus of it, at the core of it. Everyone, when they think about this, and they think about the real technical side of the defense tech market from a big perspective, they think about a Leidos. What is it? What's driving your M&A perspective right now? What have you guys done recently? I know you acquired a offensive cybersecurity company, and we're not talking about pen testers here. We're talking about something different, because that's in the commercial cybersecurity world. You say offensive cybersecurity, you're talking about red teaming, pen testers, that kind of stuff.
Right.
What are you guys buying? What are you guys looking at? What have you done recently? Why are you doing it?
Yeah. Well, I can start with the why in terms of M&A. So, I mentioned earlier at Leidos we have a corporate growth strategy. We're a large $19 billion a year plus company, and we are always looking for opportunities to bring the latest, greatest, most advanced technologies to our customers to support their missions. And so M&A is one way that we do that. Helps us with that strategy to accelerate in terms of our offerings and our business in select markets. And yeah, M&A continues to be kind of a core function of our strategy, and we are constantly evaluating potential acquisitions. We will likely continue to make acquisitions in the cyber arena going forward. And so our latest one, we acquired a great company called Kudu Dynamics, which we closed towards the end of May. As you mentioned, it's a very unique company. It's a group of just great patriots and Americans who are supporting some of the most critical national security missions that our U.S. government has through the tools and the capabilities that they build for their customers. So very, very unique business. I was very excited that we were able to make that acquisition. We added about 200 or so very high-end offensive cyber professionals that have a range of technical expertise, but also systems expertise. And you can imagine those systems would be threat systems. They'd be foreign adversary systems. across a range of technologies from the enterprise IT side to critical infrastructure to foreign weapon systems.
Are they is Kudu Dynamics?
That's right.
Dynamics. Yeah. Are they going to be building tools, or are they more of a sort of a like a operational team?
More of the former. So
Yeah.
they build the specialized hardware and software technologies that kind of create a range of capabilities, including tools.
Yeah.
So you can think cyber weapons.
Yeah.
Um,
Tools
think
kind of an
things.
outdated term, I guess.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think that's more of an intelligence community term.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we used. When you and I were sort of working in the space.
Yeah.
So that's really is their focus is really more on the technology. As you can imagine, their customers are deploying their very mission specialized capabilities that are kind of that are very have use cases that are that are centralized on those particular customer mission sets, and so part of what's also exciting is part of what they're bringing is advancements in automation and artificial intelligence. So they're building new use cases. They're building AI technologies to kind of help the cyber operators perform their jobs more efficiently, more effectively, and then to enable. When you think about some of these customers are at scale. I think U.S. Cyber Command has around 6,000 people within the command, and so they're supporting large scale cyber operations.
Yeah, the way I think about it is, you had this evolution of infantry back in the day where you went from foot soldiers to cavalry to mechanized infantry, and you started wrapping all these tools around infantry so things could help, get airborne infantry. They could get them from point A to point B, drop them in different ways, allow them to have fighting positions, to dismount, remount. I think about the same with cyber. Like we've gone from just like humans on keyboards figuring out ways into things to people building tools that help facilitate like an offensive cyber operation, much the same way that technology helped infantry advance.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what's happening right now on the battlefield, on the cyber battlefield.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of these things, some of these things have to be built for an 18-year-old kid to operate, and some of them or allow a more sophisticated 40-year-old advanced cyber expert to do whatever it is they need to do as well. Awesome. All right. That's really cool. I'm glad to hear that there's emphasis on that taking place in the defense industrial base. Like that's super important. Let's head over to the lightning round. Pull out my piece of paper for the lightning round. I don't even know if we've talked about the lightning round questions for you, but what is the most overrated growth strategy in defense contracting today? You prepared for this one?
Yeah, again, put me on the spot. It depends who you ask. The most overrated growth strategy. Well, yeah, that's a great question. What I'll say is from a market strategy perspective, you really have to understand the addressable market, right? So you got to understand who the buyers are, what are they buying, what does their funding stream look like, what kind of money do they have, where are they in their acquisition processes, what kinds of capabilities do they have on their roadmap, and so I would say if you don't have that basic understanding, anything else you do is going to be a failed strategy.
Do you think we'll have our own cyber branch of the military?
Yes, I do. I think we will at some point have a cyber branch. much like the Space Force, I think there will be a cyber force. Although I caveat it by saying I think it will be much more mission specialized. Mm-hmm. So I don't think the cyber force or the cyber branch will do sort of traditional defensive cyber work where they're operating security operations centers and they're patching software and they're doing that kind of work, protecting the DoD, the DoD information network. I think the cyber force will be more focused on the operational missions that Cyber Command performs today, including offensive cyber.
Yeah. Is it kind of like this? You break it down, like the Air Force, obviously, kind of in charge of the air domain once it broke away from the Army, but you still had aviation in the Army. You still have aviation across all the branches of the military. The Navy has its own Air Force, essentially, focused on its specific missions. The Army still has rotary wing aircraft and some fixed wing aircraft that support Army missions. But the Air Force is doing the strategic air missions. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Do you think that it would need to look more like a Coast Guard in the sense that it needs to sort of consume some of what CISA is doing from a domestic perspective to be effective, or it needs to be more like a purely a DoD entity if you were to create something like that? I'm thinking about this a lot. Like, I like if you wanted to like really integrate offensive with defensive, and you were just saying that some of the more basic defensive stuff wouldn't probably be a part of this. You would have to have a Coast Guard like entity that could be a DoD entity in a time of war, but also be, a Homeland Security entity in peacetime.
Right. Yeah, it's a good question. One of the good things with the DoD side, so DoD does collaborate with CISA, and CISA is a mission partner with DoD. So there's already some very strong connection there.
Yeah.
In fact, the new CISA director who's coming in, Sean Planke, is retired from the Coast Guard.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So there are strong connections with CISA. I think DoD and CISA will continue to strengthen, particularly under Director Planke. But I think, as far as the potential cyber force, again, this is just my opinion,
Yeah.
which doesn't even count for a cup of coffee. But, my thought would be, the cyber force would probably focus on what, from a mission standpoint, what they're doing today to support the combatant commands.
Yeah.
So they'd have a global mission just like they do today, focused on supporting U.S. and partner nation, allied nation interests globally, and then also having the offensive mission as well. As I said, the defensive mission, you think about all the services, they all have their own networks. They all have their own command and control systems. They all have different battlefield operating systems that have networks. And so all of those types of service level systems will also need to be protected, defended, and need to be resilient. And so I can still see the services, to your point with the Air Force, maintaining their own defensive cyber capabilities and branches to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, your opinion does matter because you were an early stage cyber dude from the very beginning, like back before it was even called cyber. So, and you've helped build a number of really important building blocks to get us where we are as a nation and with the cyber force. So thanks for joining us today, Matt. We really appreciate having you on the Coded for Chaos podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Hank.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yep.